Hey everyone, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Austin and I am a beauty and style content creator based in New York City. Today's video is all about blogger contracts. We're gonna go through 5 terms that you should look out for when you get a contract for a blog campaign and what these terms mean. It's really important to make sure you read these contracts carefully as a blogger so that you know what's happening with your content, and there might be some terms in there that could potentially mean that you should charge the brand more money. Before I get into the video, if you're new here, please consider subscribing and sticking around. I put out new videos every Sunday on tips for beauty and fashion content creators and beauty product reviews. I will also preface this video by saying that I am not a lawyer. I am just a blogger with 8 years of experience reading contracts, and these are the things that I would most suggest looking out for. Let's dive right into the first one, probably the most important one, which is usage rights. So when you sign a contract for a blogging campaign, you want to make sure that there is a phrase in there that indicates who retains rights to the content created. So there's really only one of 2 options here. Either you retain the rights to the content that you create, or the brand will get the rights to the content that you've created. So usually as a creator, I do prefer to retain the rights to the content that I've created, but if the brand wants to buy rights to the content I created for a certain period of time, I do have a couple of options that I can offer to a brand if I want to do that. This is probably the thing that I most often see kind of snuck into contracts for bloggers, and newer bloggers will often sign contracts without reading about who retains the usage rights and unknowingly sign their rights away to their own image and likeness. So this means that a brand could potentially use your image or likeness in like an email newsletter that they send out, or in a paid social post where they generate sales and see return from that, but you're not getting anything from it if you haven't charged for usage rights. So make sure that there is a clause in the contract somewhere that specifies who retains the usage rights, whether it's you or the brand. And also make sure you specify what markets and what channels that the brand can use your content in if they do have usage rights. Most usage rights are worldwide now because we use them on social media. It's very rare that they would just be within one specific market unless it was for a national print publication or potentially like on a billboard in a city. You could potentially just give the brand rights to use your content in paid social or in email marketing, but typically it's kind of an overall package that they could use it for any kind of marketing materials. I would also look at the term of how long that usage is for. The word in perpetuity is one to look out for because that means forever ever. And I really don't recommend signing your rights away to brands forever, no matter how much you actually love the brand and wouldn't mind being associated with them. The reason you want to avoid this is just because you love the brand and you're obsessed with it today. You never know what's going to happen in the future. It could potentially go under new management, it could get bought, it could just be revealed to have been doing shady things all along. So even if you love and trust a brand, you just never know what's going to happen in the future. So I really recommend avoiding deals where a brand gets rights to your content in perpetuity. What I typically recommend is offering some kind of package to brands. So I offer a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month usage rights deal where the brand can pay for any one of those timelines, and as you may guess, the price goes up the longer they would like rights to the content. So definitely be on the lookout for that. You know, your image and your likeness is very important, and if someone is going to be using it to generate sales for their brand, you should be compensated for that in some way. It is, of course, your choice whether you want to charge for these usage rights or not, but it is becoming more of the norm, and this way you get more money. Now, the second phrase I would look out for in your blogging contracts is exclusivity. Let's just define the term real quick. So exclusivity probably means that you are not able to partner with other brands in similar categories, and sometimes a brand will actually give you a list of other similar partners who they wouldn't want you to work with, and other times it is more generally given. So to use myself as an example, I'm a beauty content creator. Say I was working with a skincare brand to talk about a moisturizer, and I was just doing some Instagram stories and one Instagram post about the moisturizer. The brand could potentially request that within a 48-hour period window of posting that I don't post about any other moisturizers or any other competing skincare brands on my Instagram and my Instagram stories. And again, this is all up to interpretation on your own unique situation, but I would say in my experience, 48 hours is a pretty standard window where I wouldn't necessarily the next day want to tell someone about another brand new moisturizer I found that's so great when I was just being paid by a brand yesterday to tell you about their product. And I think this gets tricky again depending on your industry, because if I was just a skincare blogger, if that was my sole focus within the beauty category, and I always posted about my skincare routine on Instagram stories every night, that might suddenly now feel a little tricky because I can't talk about the products that I'm using on my stories the way that I normally would. But I would say that as a general rule, within 48 hours, like I said, it could come off as a little disingenuous if you post about a moisturizer one day and the next day you're on stories again talking about a totally different product. I would say that that's a pretty fair ask, especially for a platform like Instagram where you're probably posting a lot. Now, if the brand doesn't want you to talk about any other competing products within a week on your Instagram stories and you're a skincare blogger and that just feels unrealistic to you, that's where you could go back to the brand and ask to have that updated. If it starts to go like 2 weeks and beyond, this is where I would start to charge brands for it. And the reason you want to charge brands for this is because if you are being solely associated with that one brand and that's the only thing you're talking about, you have to think about the money that you could potentially be missing out on. Say I did a collaboration with a brand and I promoted an eyeshadow palette, and then a week later another color cosmetics brand came to me and wanted to collaborate together, and they were 2 different formulas, 2 totally different companies, 2 eyeshadow palettes that I would like to own in my life. But now I've signed a deal where for a month I have exclusivity and I'm not able to partner with that brand. That's where I would suggest either, if you really love the brand and you don't mind exclusively partnering with them for 1 month, just charging them appropriately to factor in for collaborations you may not be able to take on as a result. Or going back to the brand and asking if they wouldn't mind doing a shorter period of exclusivity between maybe 48 hours and 2 weeks, somewhere in there that feels better for you. Now, the third term slash thing in general that you want to look out for and make sure is written in the contract is the scope of work expected of you. Scope of work will often include deliverables or pieces of content that you are going to provide the brand with. So an example of a scope of work could be 1 TikTok video, 1 Instagram feed post, and 3 to 5 Instagram stories talking about a product. You want to make sure that the scope of work is clearly defined in the contract so that you know exactly what you need to deliver to the brand, and that's so they know exactly what they are going to receive. Now, one little negotiation tip I wanted to throw in here is that if a brand can't meet your rate for, say, those 3 deliverables, maybe you can figure out which platforms are most important to them and ask to take one off, or ask to have them put their money towards the platform that they can potentially afford. So maybe they can't afford your rate for an Instagram feed post and a TikTok video, but they can afford your rate for Instagram stories. The brand may have preferences based on which platforms they're hoping to target in a certain campaign, but it is definitely worth asking, especially if it's a brand you really want to work with, because it'll probably be worth it to find a way to work together. The fourth thing you definitely want to make sure is outlined in your contract is the timeline of this project. So you want to make sure that you know how long you have to complete the project and when the brand is expecting content due from you. As a general rule of thumb, I consider any projects with less than a 2-week timeline for the turnaround to be a rush project. I do work a 9 to 5. Being a blogger and YouTuber is basically my side hustle, so I only really have the weekends to shoot content if I am doing branded content. So it's very important to me to schedule things out in advance, and because of that, I may not be able to take on a last-minute collaboration. Or if I am able to take on a last-minute collaboration, I may charge a rush fee to the brand because now I have to potentially wake up earlier and shoot something before work, or maybe change plans over the weekend to make sure that I'm accommodating enough time in my schedule to get them the content that they need. I believe the rush fees, of course, will depend a little bit depending on the timeline of your project and how many deliverables there are, but just know that you can ask to charge something like that. It is not uncommon in the industry to do so. And that way you're not leaving money on the table and rushing to complete a project that you weren't expecting to have to do within a certain time frame. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is reshoots, because sometimes you do create content, you send it to the brand, and they are not happy with it. It happens even to the best of us, even if you've read the brand brief and you've followed the instructions and you've created something that you're really proud of. It's happened to me before. For most contracts that I've seen as a blogger, either reshoots are not mentioned at all, or there is a request for at least 1 reshoot if the brand does not like it. Now, I personally wouldn't charge for just one reshoot. I kind of come from the background of being a magazine editor and realizing that if I'm going to hand in a draft to my editor, there will likely be some edits and some revisions to things. But in that case, I think it's important to make sure that there is language around the reshoot part of the contract that says that the reshoot can be arranged, but you have to take into consideration my potential prior time commitments. If I got a contract that said reshoot could be requested by the brand with expected turnaround within 24 hours of sending it, I mean, that is a really tight turnaround. I probably wouldn't be able to meet with that, so that's something I would have to go back to the brand and ask them about. If the brand wants to be able to have multiple rounds of revisions and ask for multiple reshoots, that is definitely something you should be charging them for. And you might even want to charge them for one reshoot if the initial shoot required going to a specific location, having a photographer with you, doing crazy amounts of edits, or anything along those lines. In my personal experience, I do shoot a lot of campaigns at home and typically by myself, so I usually don't find that it's that much of a hassle to reshoot something for me personally, but definitely depending on the scope of work and the specific campaign, it's something I would consider adding to a contract if, again, I needed to hire a friend or go somewhere far away or get one specific shot. All right, you guys, and there you have it. Those are 5 things that you should look out for in your blogging contracts when you're working with brands. Please leave any additional questions down in the comments below and I will do my best to get back to you. If you want to learn more about building relationships with brands and how to get brand deals, I actually have this whole video all about how I started working with Glossier and how I landed my dream brand deal. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos from me. I will leave some related videos down below with creator tips in case you'd like to check them out, and give this video a thumbs up if it helped you in any way. That really helps my channel out and it signals to me that you enjoy these types of videos and that I should create more like them. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you again for watching and I will see you in next week's video. Bye!